Kalimera, well, I don't know, Kalimera or Kalispera or...
Καλημέρα σας. Πέρα από αυτό και κάποιους χαιρετισμούς ελληνικούς, δεν ξέρω κάτι άλλο να πω στα ελληνικά, αλλά χαιρετίζω τις αρχές που μας προσκάλεσαν.
Producers, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I hope that this meeting will open some opportunities to understand what our international society is trying to do. These two first pictures that I show to you belongs to not to the most wanted people in the world, but here, yes, they are the most wanted, Dr. Gary Beecham and Dr. Paul Breslin. Unfortunately, they could be here with us. The reason was that at the same time that we have this meeting, they have a lot of big meeting in Tokyo, in Japan, for Organoleptic International Association. Dr. Gary Beecham and Paul Breslin are in the Monell Center in the United States, and they organized the meeting in Japan for the first time in years. So, well, they asked me to pass their excuses to you, and, well, I think that we are going to miss them. One of the things that Gary asked me is always he says, he talks about his discovery. This typical genius, scientific genius discover. And I'm going to make some mention about this. It was in 1999. I'm sorry for the translator, not because I am just talking very quickly, of course, but my English is not very good, but I'm sorry, right? The question in 1999 was invited to a molecular gastronomy high level. Very few people in the island in Sicily, in Erice. And at that time, the guest was two famous molecular gastronomy scientists, Dr. Hugo and Beatrice Di Palma, that invited to have a lunch at home, as usual in the Mediterranean basin. And they give some olive oil from their farm. And for Dr. Gary Beecham was the first time that he tasted olive oil. And when he tasted the first swallow, he said, this is something familiar to me. And then asked for another cup, and he just tasted. And when he saw, he said, this is the same effect that I found when we are just testing ibuprofen syrup in the United States, because a pharmaceutical company asked me to do this job to reduce the level of itching of the syrup for children. That was not a coincidence. That was the feeling of a scientific genius, like Dr. Gary Beecham. Sorry. Then he went back to United States with a plastic PepsiCo bottle with, at that time in the planes we could carry liquids, not now. But at the time he went home with a liter and a half plastic bottle with olive oil, and they start to do research in Monell Center, supported by the Penn State and other institutions, because to work with olive oil at that time in the United States, only in the area of California, of course, but not in the east part. Then in 2005, they just made the publication of their results, of their findings. And for me, it was very interesting when I just read about this finding. The first one was that they recognized that this itching effect was because the molecule that another Italian famous scientist, Dr. Giacomo Montedoro, described with a scientific name, let me do it slowly, the carboxymethyl ligustrósido-glicón. I take for me 2 years to say it properly. And my friend Dr. Tangalo said that Alzheimer is not in relation with names. I am doubting about that, Eric. Anyway, then they put a new name, a more commercial, more normal name, and they put oleo from oil, acanthos, Greek word for itching, and al for aldehyde, and they call it oleocanthal. That's the first interesting thing. The second one was that they find that only extra virgin, some extra virgin olive oil has this phenol inside. Not all the varietals has oleocanthal. The third one, very interesting as well, is that the itching effect is when you swallow, because as you know, when the bitter effect, it is due to the oloropain, not to the oleocanthal, but the itching effect is due because it is a specific receptor, the TRPA1, that is the same for wasabi or chili pepper or just very strong pepper flavors, right? That was very interesting to know that only varietals, some varietals can get this. And the fourth one, finding was even more amazing for me as a doctor, as a medical doctor. They say that this was a non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. And that's, I understand very well as a doctor. That means that non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug, they usually is the more normal and common is the aspirin or the paracetamol or the ibuprofen. That is the first tools that we have in medicine to attack inflammation, or in the case of aspirin, to attack against the temperature and things like that. And that was when I understand what we were talking about. And for me it was surprising because in the medical profession, nobody knows about the possibility that a food like a natural food, like extra virgin olive oil, has this compound, this molecule, you know. And then the following finding for me was very, very, very interesting, that they say they established an equivalent. They established this equivalent in vitro, not in vivo. That is a big difference. In vitro means in laboratory. So not in animals and not in humans. But the equivalence was that 40 milliliters, 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil with an amount of around 400, something like that, milligrams by kilo, means 250 milligrams of ibuprofen. That's in vitro. As you know, when you swallow, then some part of the product stay in the organism and some part is eliminated. That's one part of the studies that we need to do, and Professor Liliji will talk tomorrow about it. But for me it was very impressive, and then I sent a letter to him and say, what are you doing? I never meet Dr. Garibichan, but I just have the confidence to say, why you don't move to the producer and to the doctors and to the chefs? And he said, well, here in the United States, we have not this possibility, so come to Europe. And then we invite to come to Cordoba, where we passed the first experience to be in a harvest. Dr. Garibichan never has been a harvest, never has been a mill, and was like children. Just they were playing with stopping the machine, putting the hand in the machine, trying to taste the pomades, and drinking every olive on the floor, doesn't matter, on the tree. It was like a child, you know. But it was a fantastic experience, you know. And after we finished in Benalmádena, Málaga, where is the association, in the Costa del Sol, with an oleocanthal menu, that we call it, that's prepared by Chef Daniel Garcia. This is with us, and I hope tomorrow we have the opportunity to have a show cooking with other Greek chefs. But by the way, to eat with Dr. Garibichan is quite complicated, because he stopped in every flavor, in every detail. And then normally you take 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, perhaps in Greece or in Spain, 2 hours for eating. With him, 3 or 4 hours, because he's stopping in each detail, right? Anyway, we just, the following step that we give was to meet Professor Majatis and Eleni Mayo. For me, it was a surprise because I found on internet, but I found that they were doing a very good job. At that time, they were at the UC Davis in Sacramento and California, and for me it was really very interesting to meet them. Young people with ideas very clear, with a lot of research very well done. And then I just asked Dr. Machiatis if they want to join our idea with Gary to create this society. Then other scientists like Dr. Lirigi, or from Spain, Dr. Luque and Feliciano Priego, that they are here, Dr. Maureen O'Leary from Monell Center, Dr. Manuel Brenes, Azan Gadanidis, and the chef Daniel Garcia. We met here in Greece for the first time, and we met thanks to these men. I was really worried because I was not ready, I'm sorry, the authorities, to start this meeting without the presence of this important man that is Dimitris Therianos. For me, it's because when we come here, people from other countries, well, we are Mediterranean, and but people coming from United States is not the same. And he received at home with his family and his sister. They make a beautiful cook that we enjoyed, and Dr. Paul Breslin was watching all the plates. For me was an amazing journey, you know, because that was the spirit that we want to have in this society, to do a multi-professional and not so focused on science, of course, but more focused on human beings, on food, on health, good health habits that we don't have. And that's the aim of our society. We made the foundation here in Zakynthos, and then we have during 2015 a lot of activities with most people, with producers, and we have introduced in Spain the Aristoleo here, and well, we have, as I told you, Dr. Garibichan, if you are having lunch with him, he put the fingers in your plate and try to see if it is good or well done or not. Very, very, very interesting, because we made a lot of presentation. We do the Oleocanthal, the first trial with the dermatology group of the Costa del Sol Hospital with Professor Machiatis and Carcaway Health Venture, seminars with doctor and chef, visit to producer and to the International Olive Council that they receive us, Dr. Machiati and Dr. Ameyu and myself. And then Úbeda and Baeza, where we have a strong meeting. And finally, we went this year to the state, to Minneapolis and Philadelphia, visiting with a group of Spanish producers. We visit Mayo Clinic, we visit the University of Minnesota, where Dr. Machiati gives a lecture, and we start the Mediterranean Day in the University of Minnesota. Is the place where the Mediterranean diet was born. In 1950, around 1950, Dr. Ansel Keys, we will talk about this after. And then we have a beautiful, fantastic show cooking at the School of Culinary Arts at Drexel University that is attached to the Monell Center, right? The Oleocanthal International Society is trying to develop under these three important issues, health, olive, and food, is trying to launch programs in health. If, of course, as I say to you, we need to do, and we are doing the bioavailability study in mouse, and we are going to do in humans, in the hospital with the PREDIMED study, a big study that we'll talk tomorrow, Dr. Struck, about this prevention study, with Evo Rich in Oleocanthal and with Oleocanthal staff. Topic developing, we are launching new products. That's very important for all of you, for the producer. We have the opportunity now to include in new topic treatments. At least in Spain, we have now 3 hospitals very interested, dermatology departments, to do research on it. And we have another problem, that is the extraction of the Oleocanthal. The only one that has the extraction of Oleocanthal until now was Professor Machiatis. Now he is not alone. We have the opportunity that Dr. Bolaños and wife, that is professor in the University of Sevilla, they do. And that is very interesting because we need, and that is the reason of the contest that we launched, we need oleocanthal extract for research. If we don't have oleocanthal extract, it is very difficult to do research, right? There is another interesting study that Dr. Gary Becham and Dr. Luis Slade at Monell Center are developing. There's a study to extract oleocanthal from other parts, not from the extra virgin olive oil, but from the olive leaves, in order to improve the amount of oleocanthal during malaxation period. There are several studies, one of them from the University of Jaén, another one in Valencia, and Dr. Machiatis has a lot of studies around the same topic, right? And we want to announce the launching of this technical analytic group dedicated to the use knowledge and information to EVO producer of the different techniques of oleocanthal and other phenol analysis. Joined with the laboratory of Dr. Machiatis in Greece and United States, there are now 3 new labs, Dr. Piego in Córdoba, Dr. Bolaños in Seville, and Tello in Jaén, and one in Australia. I give this opportunity to welcome to Dr. Claudia Guillaume from the Modern Olive Laboratory in Cobran State Boundary Bend in Australia. Well, of course, we are welcome to Dr. Eric Tangalos, Dr. Stefanos Kales, and Dr. Ramon Struck. The commitment for this meeting was to include some medical-related programs, and I got it. I got it because not only because Dr. Tangalos, that is a very good friend of mine for the last 20 years, and for Dr. Ramon Struck from the Predimed study, but to meet Dr. Stefanos Kales 2 weeks ago was just for me a very impressive meeting. We are focusing in food, in opinion, the most important part of the aims of the oils. Extra virgin olive oil is the best fat for human consumption, not only because the relation between monosaturated and saturated fat acids, but from the existence of phenols, considered until now as a minority compound, but day by day, these compounds show us more and more healthy benefits. That's the difference with another kind of oils, like, for example, coconut or palm or canola oils. They don't have the phenols. Our goal is to show to the community that the EVO is not only for dressing salads, it is the best basic food for cooking. That is because I announced that here, next OIS meeting that we hope to celebrate next year in Malaga will be, as this year has been for the medicine and health, the year of the gastronomy. With the EVO producer, we need to demonstrate that the best fat to cook at home and at the restaurant is using extra virgin olive oil. I could not understand, I don't know here in Greece, I don't think that is like in Spain. In Spain, everybody that has a meal and that has a good extra virgin olive oil is trying to mimetize with the wine. And I think, as a medical doctor, I think that this is really the contrary that we needed. We needed to stress that extra virgin olive oil is a very good fat for cooking at home, because the legend that we have about the point of the smoke, our chef has demonstrated many times that it is not like that, you know. It is a question of temperature, but it is a question of time as well. Finally, my most warm welcome to, as I said before, to the Stefanos Kales that they are doing. He's going to present by video. Unfortunately, he couldn't come, but he's going to make a very interesting demonstration in relation with the Mediterranean way. So I'm not going to talk about this. The rest of the speaker, and Dr. Machiatis will introduce in a moment, but I want to thank to all of them for coming to this second meeting in Greece, the third of the society. Especially Dr. Amala Kadumi and Dr. Douglas Masek for the effort to cross the Atlantic and to come to the cradle of the Mediterranean culture. To Professor Mohamed Ouassis from Tunisia, Dr. John Newman, that is coming tomorrow. Dr. Dan Flynn is with us, Director Dan Flynn from UC Davis, and Mary Flynn from Brown University. Of course, to the participation, the impressive participation, Dr. Gary Beecham was really impressed for the Greek professor participation from the University of Athens, and for the TEI of Peloponneso and the University of Thessalonica. Of course, Dr. Eric Tangalos and Lily G. and wife. And finally, this is a message to the producer. We need to work together, and we need your support. We create a special member for our association. We need to be joined. The first beneficiaries of our job are the producers. So we need to encourage to be together in the future. And that's all. I think that, I don't know if you like it, but if you like it, you can